Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Greg Gilligan. I am the Vice President of Operations at RVA757 Connects. Thank you so much for tuning in to the latest RVA757 Connects Virtual Innovation Spotlight webinar. We have a very exciting program today, and a very interesting one at that. We're going to be exploring how the Richmond-Petersburg region is rapidly emerging as a national hub for advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing and how they're reshaping how essential medicines are made and secured here in the United States. But before we do that, let me just, before we get into the program, just a couple housekeeping matters. I'll introduce our sponsor for this month's webinar. I'll give you a quick update on RVA757 Connects. Then we'll delve into today's topic, and we'll leave some room at the very end for some questions and answers from you. Just as a reminder, we do record all of our webinars, and the recordings will be available later today on our website. Please let others know that you think might be interested in this program so we can spread the word there. And also, if you have any questions, please use the chat function, and I will get them towards the very end of the webinar, and that way we will be able to use that as the Q&A function. RVA757 Connect is a nonprofit organization, so we rely on donations. Here's our corporate investors who support us on an annual basis. One of our corporate investors is Virginia Natural Gas, which serves more than 310,000 residential, commercial, and industrial customers in southeastern Virginia. The company traces its roots to the City Gas Light Company, which received its charter in 1850 to illuminate the streets of Norfolk with gas lights. Now the company is owned by the Southern Company, an Atlanta-based energy holding company. Today, to tell us more about Virginia Natural Gas is Shannon O. Pierce. She's the company's president and chief executive officer. She's been president since last September, and she assumed the additional role of CEO in April upon the retirement of Robert Duvall. She joined the Southern Company Gas in 2004, and in the fall of 2023, she was named the Vice President of Strategy and Chief Administrative Officer for Virginia Natural Gas. She started out at McGuire Woods here in Richmond. Shannon also serves on our board, which we appreciate. Shannon, so tell us a little bit more about Virginia Natural Gas, and also maybe you might even mention that big exciting news that was announced last week, the $50 million operations headquarters in Chesapeake. So let me stop the screen and.
Thank you, Greg, and good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to thank RVA757 Connects for giving VNG the opportunity to share a glimpse into our innovation journey at Virginia Natural Gas. We believe that when you connect innovation and collaboration, we elevate the customer experience, we elevate communities, and promote economic growth. And our commitment to innovation and collaboration has never been more important than it is today. We're at a pivotal moment where emerging technologies are reshaping how we deliver energy. Meeting the energy needs of the future means being forward-thinking and really acting boldly and investing in our future. That's why we're proud to support RVA757 Connects and its mission to advance the Richmond and Hampton Roads regions through innovation and collaboration. As you heard, this year marks the 175th anniversary of Virginia Natural Gas. And you heard that we were chartered to solve a problem, to light the streets of Norfolk. Since then, we have used innovation and collaboration to solve problems and advance our region. And many of you may not have known that VNG is a part of the much larger enterprise that is the Southern Company. Southern Company is not your traditional utility holding company. It has been a leader in innovation, research and development, and leveraging emerging technologies in our industry for decades. And VNG benefits from the resources and support of the Southern Company to have impact locally in the Commonwealth. Greg mentioned the recent announcement of our operations headquarters that will be in Chesapeake. This operations headquarters is going to be a hub for us to serve the Chesapeake and Virginia Beach region, but also the broader Commonwealth. And for us, innovation comes in many forms, from everyday processes to make process improvements, using drones and predictive analytics to support our modernization efforts. And we also are very proud to have recently announced a partnership with the Hampton Roads Sanitation District to develop a renewable natural gas project. This project will provide an additional source of energy to serve customers and communities while doing our part to promote environmental stewardship and sustainability. You saw the video footage that just displayed, and I can't go too much longer without talking about our fabulous team. We know that our team is at the heart of all that we do. And we want to make sure that our entire team feels a part of our innovation and collaboration efforts. And so each year, as you saw in the video, we hold an event with our team and various partners called Fueling the Future, a celebration of innovation. It is a day where our employees come together with our partners to explore new technologies and share bold ideas and collaborate on solutions that will help shape the future of energy delivery and customer service. We know that the future is bright for the RVA and the 757, and we look forward to fueling the future together with each of you. Thank you again for the opportunity to share our journey around innovation and collaboration at Virginia Natural Gas, and I look forward to today's discussion.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for that information. Very fascinating what you all are doing down there. So thank you again. Thank you again for being on our board. We appreciate your insights and your expertise in helping us shape the future of this mega region.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Let me tell you all a little bit about RVA757 Connects. We, as I mentioned, are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to improve the economic success and quality of life of everyone living in the Richmond region, which we call RVA, and the Hampton Roads region, which was called 757. We are a coalition of top leaders representing businesses, higher education, and various organizations. We're following a national model where nearby localities actually collaborate on initiatives that advance both regions. As you can see, we are pursuing several priorities. We are helping the I-64 Innovation Corridor become a global internet hub, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. We advocated for the widening of Interstate 64. That's a 29-mile gap between New Kent County and Williamsburg. That project is now fully funded, and construction has started, and it should be finished by 2028, with 3 lanes going in each direction between the Richmond area all the way down to Hampton Roads. We also are advocating for the multi-use trails, such as Trail 757 in the Hampton Roads region, and the Fall Line Trail up here in the Richmond region. You can read more about these initiatives on our website at rva757.com. And one of our top priorities is to spearhead efforts to have the I-64 Innovation Corridor designated as a global internet hub. This is a bold plan to harness the once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform the future of the Richmond region and Hampton Roads. When you view the Richmond area and Hampton Roads together, combined, we have the core digital infrastructure in place needed to become a global internet hub. This 3-foot by 2-foot map explains visually how the I-64 Innovation Corridor becomes a global internet hub. Our mega region has the subsea cables that come ashore in Virginia Beach, and more are coming. We have robust local and intercity terrestrial networks. We have digital network rings. We have the internet exchange, and we have data centers of all types and sizes, and more of those are on the way. If you'd like to get an actual copy of this map, please email me and let me know, and we'll send you one. On the opposite side of the map brochure explains how the global internet hub is, why it's important, and the strategies we are using to build one of these interconnected digital hubs. You can go to our homepage of our website or the homepage of globalinternethub.com website, and click on the map to get a better idea of these digital assets. As part of the Global Internet Hub initiative, RVA757 Connects is championing for strong and expanded digital infrastructure ecosystems to enable world-class communications and connectivity. Having modern digital infrastructure ecosystems fuel everything from cloud computing and e-commerce to AI-driven manufacturing. A powerful digital infrastructure also supports the growth of high-paying IT tech jobs and ensures the industries of tomorrow will locate and expand in the Richmond and Hampton Roads regions. All of this will help grow our overall GDP, our workforce, our productivity per worker, our wages, and in turn, economic prosperity for everyone. We also gave the Global Internet Hub initiative a soul by recruiting a national nonprofit organization called PCs for People. This is the largest and most successful computer refurbisher in the United States with a vision to end the digital divide. PCs for People collects outdated computers at no cost to donating businesses and organizations. They then refurbish those old computers and installs the latest software and provides renewed desktop systems to underserved residents and families for free or late model laptops up to $150. In addition, PCs for People also provides toll-free tech help support and ongoing free computer training. Nonprofit organization purchased a former Save a Lot grocery store building on East Pembroke Avenue in Hampton, which is next to a Dollar General store, I'm sorry. PCs for People expects to be operational there sometime next month in July. This building will serve as a refurbishment and distribution center and a retail outlet. PCs for People also is now in the process of looking for a retail location to open in the Richmond area in the coming months. Also, PCs for People is looking for companies in the mega region who want to donate old computers and other used technology that they will pick up for free, they'll wipe clean, and then those devices will be refurbished and provided to families, individuals, and nonprofits in need. If you are interested, if your company is interested or you have any interest in this, please reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with the folks at PCs for People. Now let's turn to today's topic. As I mentioned earlier, one of our priorities is to showcase innovation, and that's what we're doing this afternoon. The Richmond-Petersburg region is rapidly emerging as a national hub for advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing, reshaping how essential medicines are made and secured here in the United States. This growing sector is critical to strengthening the country's supply chain, enhancing national security, ensuring equitable access to life-saving medications. A unique mix of mission-driven companies, public institutions, and nonprofits is leading this transformation. Together, they are not only reshoring production of essential medicines, but also creating next-generation workforce and accelerating innovation in pharmaceutical manufacturing. For instance, Phlow, that's the Richmond-based Benefits Corporation, is developing and domestically manufacturing active pharmaceutical ingredients, also called APIs, and finished pharmaceutical products that are critical to the nation's healthcare. Phlow began in 2020 and promptly won a $354 million federal contract to create domestic supply chain for essential drugs and ingredients. Civica is a nonprofit pharmaceutical company created to prevent and mitigate drug shortages. It operates a 140,000 square foot state-of-the-art pharmaceutical manufacturing facility in Petersburg that will produce insulin products sold at affordable prices. The very first Innovation Spotlight held ever was in February of 2022, and we discussed the rise of the RVA's advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing, and we featured Phlow in that particular webinar. We're back now to get an update. Now let me introduce our speakers. Robbie DeMaria will serve as moderator for this discussion this afternoon. He is the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer for Phlow. He's also the founding board chairman, I should say, of the Alliance for Building Better Medicines. Robbie is also a board member of RVA757 Connects. Let me give you a shout out to Robbie also because he was named this week as one of Virginia Business's Virginia C-Suite Awards honoree. And this particular awards program, it's the first year that's done. It recognizes 33 top executives who exemplify integrity, innovation, and impact. So congratulations, Robbie, for that. Joy Polifrone, or Polifrone, as she says the Italian pronunciation, serves as the Regional Innovation Officer for the Advanced Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Tech Hub, which is an initiative of the Alliance for Building Better Medicines and its 16-member organizations and coalitions of more than 40 partner organizations. Eric Edwards is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Phlow. And we'll hear more from him. And then Ned McCoy is the president and chief executive officer of Civica. He has been with the nonprofit since its founding. His past roles included chief operating officer and chief business development officer. I met Ned 2 years ago at the Civica facility, and then we hosted here at RVA757 Connects offices a reception for him and Civica to introduce them to the Richmond community. And Ned, I don't know if you can see or not, but I actually picked up one of these water bottles at one of your events, and I still use it today. So now, as a reminder, just before I turn the program over to Robbie, if you have any questions, please use the chat function. I'm going to stop sharing the screen right now and turn the program over to Robbie Demiria. Robbie, take it aboard.
Yep, thank you, Greg, so much. And welcome everybody this afternoon. That was a wonderful introduction, Greg, of myself and my colleagues. And so I'm thrilled today to be joined by three of my probably favorite colleagues here in the pharma industry. And I'm not just saying that because one of them is my boss, but these are three visionaries leading three incredible organizations doing very important work. And Greg, you mentioned that it's been several years. So I was thinking about it when we were pulling this webinar together. At 22, it's been 3 years since Eric and myself participated in the first webinar, and then we had Ned and other colleagues from Civica. We did that reception for them in Richmond, and then Joy, we wrangled you into this industry here in Richmond. I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago. I believe this is your first time interacting with RVA757. So I think that this is a great time to bring everyone together. And the best way, I think, to kick off this roundtable discussion, because it's been so long and so much has happened in all of these groups, that we would do a brief, 4 or 5 slide update on the three different organizations. We're going to start with Joy. So if you give me just a second, I'm going to share my screen. All right. Joy, you can see that?
Yes, I can.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Super. Thanks, Robbie. And many thanks for the invitation to be here and share this update. And this is it's wild when you get to witness something that is changing the landscape of opportunity for a community, but also changing an industry and happening extremely fast through, collaboration and innovation are at the core of this work. So the vision for the Alliance is really everyone has safe and secure access to affordable, high-quality medicines to ensure the health of all communities at home and around the globe. And I think it's important to start where we started. And a lot of the work that's happening within the Alliance and within this community started with place-based economic development, really looking at what are the assets that we have in the region and how might we solve really meaningful challenges or opportunity spaces within those, with those assets by bringing them together. And this work started in many ways around the work that was happening at the Medicines for All Institute at VCU. And this is Frank Gupton, who is the individual who is the founder of that institute. And over time, what we've seen happen is an expansion in what we are capable of doing because of the collaboration across many different groups. But it really did start with work that was existing in this region and then building off of those assets. So Robbie, if you can go to the next slide. I feel like it's my responsibility to help people understand the alphabet soup of this work in the region, because I think it's really hard for us to conceptualize why what's happening here is so special, and also why we're at the beginning and on a growth curve of what actually can happen. And I think I'll just take a second to walk through what this alphabet soup is so you understand some of the acronyms. Key starting materials are essentially the creation from building blocks. So we think of raw materials coming out of various different sources, and those go through chemical reactions to become something that can be used in the development of an active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is the ingredient that is acting in the body when the drug goes into the system. So if we think through this, we've got key starting materials, we've got the drug substance or the active pharmaceutical ingredient. Then we've got the addition of things called excipients. Those are the things that make sure that the active ingredient gets to the right place in the body. And then we have the formulation into a delivery device or drug dosage form, then the drug product, and then a whole lot of things that happen between the drug product to get it to the patients that we're not really evidencing here. When we look at this process, the work in this region is really heavily touching the active pharmaceutical ingredient production, innovations in that space, and access when it involves that space, and injectable delivery device and dosage forms through the work of Phlow and Civica. There's research and innovation happening on the left side of this diagram in making new key starting materials and developing them with different methods, and in really thinking about how do we formulate or develop active pharmaceutical ingredients in ways that are more cost effective and environmentally friendly. Why does this matter and why are we doing this? If you can go to the next slide, Rafi. So 95% of the key starting materials are manufactured outside the US. More than 80% of APIs are manufactured outside the US. And about 40% of the finished dose formulations are manufactured outside the US. What this means is that supply chains for the pharmaceutical industry are complex. I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. But what it also means is that we really do have an access issue if we have the inability to manufacture medicines, especially essential medicines here in our region. If you can go to the next slide. This is another one that I think is a really interesting thing. So if you think about the way medicines are manufactured today, it's an incredibly distributed supply chain. These stats and example come from an article that was published by Ernst & Young in 2022, where they took a sample active pharmaceutical ingredient and they said, what's the entire footprint to manufacture from key starting materials to distribution? And it's about 25,000 miles. If you think about the more than 260 million Americans who get over-the-counter medications or they're taking prescription medications on a regular basis, this is a problem if the supply chain breaks down and we don't have local capabilities. If you think about the increase in drug shortages, it's dipped a little bit in the last year, but we're still at 270 drugs that are currently in shortage in the United States. I'm sure Ned will speak more about that in a little bit. There are significant barriers to innovation in this space that mean that investments from the federal government, the state government are critical to especially manufacturing of generic medicines, which are the majority of medicines that most of us take in the United States, but also innovations that lead to better medicines being made in the future that can be manufacturable here in the United States. I'm not going to go through all the details here because I was told I had 4 minutes and I'm talking fast in a caffeinated form. So let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so the cheeky comment is we're going to go from 25,000 miles to 25 miles. And that's not to say we're going to do everything in our backyard. It's to say that our ambition is to create the capability and capacity for local manufacturing end to end. If we can create that capability and capacity for that within our region, it can be replicated in other regions. That's probably what we're going to need to have to be able to change the challenge of the supply chain issues within medicines. But that means that innovation is required. So there's a tremendous body of work that's happening right now. Again, I'm not going to go into detail here, but I just want you to get a breath of what's actually happening. And it's in all of those spaces along that end-to-end supply chain, or really the end-to-end manufacturing process perspective. If we go to the next slide, please. So, yeah, great, thank you. So the work of this work requires a lot of capabilities and competencies that will never come from a single organization. So the Alliance was formed in order to bring these capabilities together and stitch together a strategy that can allow us to do this work at scale and sustainably. And when we think about that, that means entrepreneurial support organizations, it means the government, it means all of the full range of the educational footprint. We have a tremendous body of work happening in workforce and talent system development around biotech and advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing in the region. And I would say it's best in class, and furthering in that direction. And we have to really be thinking about all of these partners and what swim lane they're swimming in, and how we ensure that we're all holding our piece of the strategy in order to execute on something that's far bigger than what we could ever do on our own. So these are the coalition members of the Advanced Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Tech Hub. We received Tech Hub designation about 1.5 years ago, and we've just learned within the last couple of weeks that there will be a new notice of funding opportunity for Tech Hubs. So we'll be one of 19 that has the capacity to go after that funding, and that'll come out in the next month or so, we imagine. And so what we're thinking about really is, how do we continue to build the sustainable organization to do this work? And I'll go ahead and wrap with this last slide, which is just to say, the mission, if you could switch there, is to really build a regional biopharmaceutical ecosystem to create a resilient drug supply. And the way that I've been speaking about this lately is, I want us to be the magnet for building a resilient drug supply for everywhere in the world. I want, when people think about that, when people think about resilient drug supplies, they think about this part of the country and the world. And I'll just leave it there. Thanks, Robbie.
Excellent. Thank you, Joy. My grandmother used to have a saying, you make plans and God laughs. And about 15 minutes before the webinar was to start, Ned called me to let me know that he was in a massive traffic jam. Ned, have you been able to join us?
I'm here, Robbie. Believe
There
it or
you
not.
go. You made it, my friend. All right, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I flew into Chicago for a meeting this morning, leaving myself an hour to spare. And of course, there was an accident in Chicago. I lived here for a lot of years, so I know how that goes. But I made it. I was on my phone listening in, but made it here on the video. So I kept this pretty high level, counting on folks to dig deeper and ask questions if they would like. I've been with the company since about 3 months before we started, helped start up the company almost 7 years ago. Let's go to the next slide. We are really proud to be in Petersburg, Virginia, and have our manufacturing plant, all the equipment in, and starting to add all of the headcount, the employees, and move forward to do the runs we have to do to get FDA approval on our sterile injectables. Now, thank you, Joy, for going through and talking about API and key starting materials. And we're kind of on the end of that. We manufacture the sterile product, the injectable products that go to hospitals for us each day. We plan about 40 sterile injectables for hospitals in this facility. We're doing 3 biologics right now, insulins, to bring the cost down for people with diabetes. And we have, this is just kind of a high level, we've already hired 225 employees, 80 of them this year, 80 already this year, and we're going to hire another 100 by the end of the year. So we're fully staffing right now. Let's go to the next page. I want to show you kind of a glimpse inside the plant. We have 3 manufacturing lines inside the plant. The one on the left is the vial filler. And on the right, you see this is actually a syringe filler. The vial filler looks very similar. This is highly technical. You have the hallway out here, and inside the glass room, the operators wear bunny suits. However, the machine itself is completely inside a sterile chamber, an isolator. So we have kind of double, almost triple protection to make these sterile products. The plant's pretty big, 140,000 square feet, as I think Greg mentioned earlier. And we have 3 lines. We can do 90 million vials a year, 50 million syringes, and we can do 120 million insulin pens per year. Let's go to the next page. And this is kind of just a summary of the company and where we are. We started back in 2018, and we secured capacity from other manufacturers so that we could get these shortage products to the hospitals. As Joy mentioned, these generic injectable products are prone to shortages. It's economic. A lot of the manufacturing, we call it the race to the bottom. The cost is low. Typically, we sell a product for between $2 and $3 a vial, like the cost of a bottle of water. And it's a sterile, highly technical product. But we have a low-cost product, and a lot of the manufacturing has moved to India, China, and other countries. We have a preference for U.S. supply. We signed agreements with U.S. and European companies primarily, and we currently supply 80 medications already. We've already delivered 220 million vials of product to patients to serve 86 million. We have signed agreements and committed contracts from 59 health systems that account for 1,400 hospitals, which is about 1/3 of the U.S. hospital beds. So we're national. And now we're back integrating into Petersburg and making products in Virginia. So we're pretty excited about this. We're a 50, this is the other big thing about Civica. We're a 501c4. We're a non-stock nonprofit. So we're a nonprofit. We're also not for loss. We gotta break even, but no one owns us. We're like a public utility. We address drug shortages in hospitals, and one of the ways we do that is to keep a safety stock of medications, about 6 months on average. And we have a membership and a committed volume, transparent, one price for all. Mayo Clinic pays the same thing as your local small hospital. It's all one price. Let's go to the next page. And I just wanted to add, this is kind of new. We're in the process of building a new R&D and quality lab in Chesterfield County. It's sort of halfway between VCU and Civica, because we plan to lease some of this space to VCU, perhaps others in the future. We'll be completing it at the end of next year, and we'll have about 50 employees in this R&D lab. As you know, we received funding toward this lab just last year, I believe. That's kind of at a high level. I think that's the last page I have. We're doing sterile injectables for hospitals. I didn't say too much about insulin. It's an example of some medications we're doing strictly to bring the cost down. People with diabetes have paid way too much for insulin. That was invented over 100 years ago. It was selling for as much as $350 a vial. And we found that 1 out of 7 people with diabetes were rationing their insulin because of cost. And as you know, that's not a good thing. I can miss my statin. I can miss my cholesterol medication for a few days and it won't make too much difference, but you can't miss your insulin. So they need this to live. And we saw it as not a hospital product, but we have the technology with the sterile injectable filling and finishing in Petersburg to do it. And we formed a separate company called Civica Script, which is a retail company that's going to market insulin along with other products that are cost way too much. So that's kind of, we're mission driven, we're nonprofit, non-stock, but we are like a free market approach to solving some of the healthcare problems. And as far as I know, we're the only sterile injectable facility in Virginia. As far as what we need, we're getting a tremendous amount of support from Virginia. From VEDP have been extremely supportive with our training programs. We'd like to see more manufacturing and sterile injectable education. We have a partnership with Brightpoint, and we'd like to see that expanded, much like some of the things they're doing in North Carolina. We can talk more about that later.
Yeah,
but that's kind of, wanted to give you, pass that along kind of at a high level.
Yeah, that's really great, Ned. And I mean, just to reiterate a couple, just real quick, 80 medications, 1,400 U.S. hospitals, representing 1 in 3 beds in the U.S. It's really incredible work. And, you know, the only, I believe, nonprofit pharma company created the express purpose of preventing and mitigating drug shortages. So right in our backyard, it's great to have you in the community. All right, let me pass it over to Eric Edwards, co-founder and CEO of Phlow.
Yeah, so we're working from the end backwards, right? So we have the region coming together to build out the supply chain. We've got Civica, who is supplying our hospitals and retail pharmacies with critical resiliency on the finished dosage form. And then in comes Phlow, working alongside Civica and others to focus on the critical components here. So Phlow is an American contract development and manufacturing organization that is really focused on supply chain security, beginning with the most critical components of our medicine supply chain, and that component that has been offshored over decades, the key starting materials and active pharmaceutical ingredients. So next slide. Our purpose is a bold and big one. We are seeking to create the future of how medicines are made, with a mission to help brilliant minds, whether those are brilliant minds in our government or brilliant minds in pharma companies, bring medicines to life through advanced development and manufacturing right here on US soil in America. Next slide. We have been leveraging the unique government relationship and contract that allowed us to build and catalyze the activity to build out an infrastructure that involves a development capability, analytical capability, two CGMP manufacturing facilities right here in Petersburg, Virginia. So we have labs down in Richmond, Virginia. We tech transfer that to our kilo scale facility or large metric ton scale facility. And then we also have built the nation's first strategic active pharmaceutical ingredient reserve. The idea here is that our nation, during COVID, we saw a pandemic that truly underscored vulnerabilities of relying on foreign sources for our nation's most critical medicines. Unfortunately, we had nothing in the strategic national stockpile that covered a lot of these essential medicines in shortage. So we went to the United States government and we proposed a strategy and a program, this strategic API reserve program and platform that basically says, let's stop storing critical essential medicines in every dosage form, vials, syringes, tablets, capsules. Let's bring back the critical ingredients that aren't on US soil and then work through a network of rapid conversion partners when there is that next public health emergency, natural disaster, trade dispute, which we're living now, or war, military conflict. And let's make sure we have pharmaceutical sovereignty and resiliency for some of our nation's most critical medicines. We're not talking about all medicines. We're talking about those medicines where, as kind of Ned mentioned, if you have Claritin, you can go get Zyrtec or Allegro or other antihistamines. But if you don't have epinephrine, you don't have the primary drug of first choice with no alternative for cardiac arrest or anaphylaxis, as an example. So this is about supply chain security and resiliency and pharmaceutical sovereignty and really protecting America's medicine cabinet. So after 4 years, we are now fully operational in all of these facilities, and that is really, really exciting. We are making medicines today through a pipeline of medicines we've been working on, developing over years, leveraging new technology and new chemistry to drive down the cost, improve yield, and drive sustainability. Next slide. That government transformational program has not only catalyzed the initial infrastructure, but now we've moved beyond. We launched an initial pilot with the Department of Defense. It turns out that 25%, over 25% of the critical ingredients for our warfighters on the battlefield are made with Chinese ingredients. So we are now working to protect the supply chain of our armed forces and our warfighters. We filed 4 drug master files to date. We just finished the epinephrine validation campaign and now working on others in the pipeline. Next slide. And we are certified B Corp. And so that means we're using business as a force for good. We are driving sustainability initiatives. We are working to be stewards of what's been entrusted for us to do. And that includes not only ending drug shortages, working with such entities as the End Drug Shortage Alliance, but giving back to the community, solving for drug shortages. We also were the founding member of the Children's Hospital Coalition, as an example, where we have now delivered over 1.5 million vials of essential medicines to children's hospitals, serving patients that not many people wanted to serve with medicines that weren't available. This is not a profitable effort for Phlow. This is a critical effort, a mission-driven effort. So this is all about impact and putting that impact to work. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Ned and Joy. So to kick off this roundtable discussion, maybe we can pick up right where Eric was kind of talking about. There's the pharmaceutical reshoring movement has been gaining momentum nationally. How is this trend shaping your organization's strategy and operations? What opportunities, challenges is it creating for you? Maybe Eric, Ned?
Sure, I'll start, and then Ned, definitely weigh in here because we're both tackling this together, and we've been tackling it from day one in partnership. So as you saw, Phlow was established right before the pandemic, with a focus on reimagining the essential medicine supply chain by reshoring our pharmaceutical manufacturing on US soil. And we're kind of in a unique position here. The COVID-19 pandemic, as I discussed, kind of really highlighted the vulnerabilities in our supply chains. Phlow secured the initial federal contract funding from HHS to begin producing critical medicines and especially their ingredients during the first Trump administration. And now we have this continued reshoring momentum with the second Trump administration, with a focus now doubling down not only on leveraging our US government support, but also private capital investment in both the foundation initiatives, the infrastructure that we have here, but also programs towards end-to-end essential medicine development, as well as, and importantly, leveraging innovation and driving that innovation further. For example, not only our work in continuous manufacturing, but our digital operations technology profile. We recently signed an accord with leading companies that include Eli Lilly, Google, major universities, Texas A&M, Purdue, VCU, the Alliance for Building Better Medicines joined. And that was all about leveraging cutting edge artificial intelligence and advanced manufacturing to enhance national security, to provide for economic resiliency, the revitalization of the American manufacturing community, and really trying to build towards technological leadership and workforce development solutions, all with the singular purpose: reshore our essential medicine supply chain, reduce costs for essential medicines for American families. So that is what we're working on now. We built the foundation. We were a construction company the first 4 years. Now we're an operating company serving both the government and pharma customers who are wishing to reshore. And now it's our responsibility to be good stewards and to leverage our capital to innovate further, to go further, farther, faster, to support accelerated development time to market and reduce costs for patients.
Excellent, Eric. Ned?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, we're all about bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. As I mentioned, because of the economics, so much of sterile injectable manufacturing has moved offshore. Typically, when a drug goes generic, it'll be fairly high priced, and U.S. manufacturers will make it. But then when it gets down to a certain cost, they'll move on, as they probably should as a for-profit company. They move on. They have a commitment to shareholders. They move on to make something that sells at a higher price. And that manufacturing moves offshore and is many times concentrated in only maybe 2 sites. So when the FDA shuts down one site, suddenly we have a shortage. There was a lot of publicity last year on cancer drugs, cisplatin and carboplatin, because the FDA shut down a plant in India. That's one example. So we're all about bringing it back to the U.S. Like Phlow, we partnered with Phlow and benefited from government funding during the first Trump administration that covered about 2/3 of the capital cost to build the plant, our plant, the Civica plant. We've also benefited from other support. Governor Youngkin and the Congress in Virginia has put money in the budget this year to help us on the insulin project. And a couple of years ago, California gave us a grant of $50 million to help develop these 3 insulins. So we've gotten a lot of support. I think it's all going the right direction for us. I would say, though, on the other side of the equation, we have to understand that our customers, in particular Civica's customers, hospitals, are very cost sensitive. So there's always that tension between the cost and the surety of supply. So just to be real, that's always there. And so, and we always have to be prepared to address that through, the kind of products we're making, the quality, and get down to a reasonable cost on our end too. So,
and Ed, wouldn't you agree that one of the things you and I have also learned is our customers want us to build our industrial base and manufacturing capacity and facilities, very, very quickly, very fast. So there's always that challenge of, can you do it faster and scale faster? And that tension is felt, and not only being able to build this infrastructure that is extremely complex and very costly, but also build that workforce that feeds it. And we've been working together on that as well. But I'm sure that's been a challenge for you, as it has been for us.
That's right. That's right. It's exactly right. Shortages occur, for a few months, but it takes years to build the kind of facilities we're doing and starting them up, especially in the regulated industry that we're in.
Joy, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this question as well. I know that reshoring has been a big part of the alliance, but in addition to that, through the Tech Hub's work, you've been working to expand beyond just the Richmond-Petersburg region. Would also love to hear, as Greg mentioned early on, RVA757, what are some ways in which we could probably partner better with the Hampton Roads region to expand this ecosystem?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I'll start with just the Tech Hub's call. So we've benefited from being the recipients of multiple federal and state funding initiatives. The coalition has, and we were a recipient of Build Back Better. We received Go Virginia funding, state appropriations to many of our partners to do the work that they're doing. But Tech Hubs, that was an initiative by the EDA that was launched about 1.5 years ago, or we've received Tech Hubs designation. We're one of 31 in the country. We're the only designated Tech Hub in the state of Virginia. And that was to look at how do we become globally competitive in an industry that's critical to national security and the future of the US economy. And so even getting designated as a Tech Hub was the indication that this is a critical industry that the federal government, both administrations, the last three, I guess you could say, to the current one, have all been deeply invested in. And so what that challenged us to do is to think beyond only reshoring, not to say that reshoring is not critically important, but to think about a growing industry and how do we create innovations that can thrive and fill that growing industry. So we talk about reshoring, but we also should mention that the vast majority of the large pharmaceutical companies have started to look at continuous processing and advanced manufacturing technologies to drive their own innovations and to change the way that they manufacture medicines. So in addition to building the capability and the capacity for essential medicines and a resilient drug supply in the region, we also have the capacity to create the innovations that will then drive the growth of that industry. And those innovations coming out of the asset base, both intellectual and physical in this region, creates for us a pretty incredible opportunity to think differently about a globally competitive pharmaceutical region within this region. The other piece of it too is Tech Hubs. Many of the Tech Hubs were multi-state. Many of the Tech Hubs there's very, very strong focus on a single industry vertical, like that cannot change. But this question of how do we think about our capabilities and the assets that we have in the region as a magnet for innovations coming out of other parts of the state. And that for me is very exciting because I know if I look across the state of Virginia and if I look down toward Tidewater, we have a tremendous breadth of capabilities that are very relevant for advanced manufacturing. If we think about aerospace and the maritime industries, there's a lot of workforce and competencies that overlap between these three industries. We also, to the point of the subsea cables and this building out of an internet capability here, AI and machine learning and digital factory are critical elements to the future of all three of those industries, but certainly pharmaceuticals. And so when we're looking at what we're building, we're also thinking about how does the work in pharmaceutical manufacturing complement the work that's happening? And when I say that, I mean workforce and talent system, as well as technology and innovations, complement the work that's happening in those other industries. And so to me, we're in a really brilliant spot to be able to capitalize on those capabilities. And that's where the work together becomes really important, but also the focus around what are the verticals we're going to drive first so we can pilot things and then scale, not pilot 40 things. And so that's a lot of the focus of the Alliance at this point in time.
Thank you, Joy. Ned, the last slide that you had in your introduction was about the scale-up pilot lab that you're building in Chesterfield. And from an economic development standpoint, the economic developers love when you choose Virginia, especially when it's competitive, but they really love when you choose it again. Second projects in 4 years is a tremendous win for the region. What are some things that you think the state, maybe policymakers, or even, again, this mega region between Hampton Roads and Richmond, these business leaders that are on the call today, what could they be doing to help grow this industry, support you?
I would say our biggest need right now are talented employees and educated employees in this industry because there's not a lot of pharma or at least finished dosage form in the area. We could use more support on that side. We think, I know down in North Carolina, there's a program at NC State and a lot of community colleges that work with them to educate folks in manufacturing on aseptic processing. That would be one thing. The other is attracting folks to the area. And I love the fact that we're getting more and more pharma in the area. I think it's really great. It's going to help us attract more talent and build more like what they've done down in Research Triangle Park.
Yeah.
I think it's a good model for us. So if we look at that, I think we could be there too.
Joy, I think that's a big topic for you. You've talked about workforce. I can see you itching to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been, North Carolina biotech has been around for 50 years, and I think that the capacity and capabilities that they built are a great model and a great one for us to look at, but also to look at leapfrogging. So when we've been mapping the workforce and talent system work, we're looking at what are the new innovations that can allow us to create a tighter feedback loop between our industry partners and our program development, so that we're not missing a beat on what industry needs now, but also in the future. And that's, I think I'll just make a plug for one of the projects that didn't get funded through Good Jobs Challenge, is an AI enabled career pathway system, because Good Jobs Challenge doesn't fund that. But we're really looking at those models. What we did when we did a head-to-head comparison with BioWorks in North Carolina, we found that actually our stackable credentials and our programs are comparable. But I think, Ned, to your point, we don't have that critical mass that North Carolina has built over 50 years. And I think that's where we're having a lot more dialogue around attraction, very much to your point, especially at mid to senior levels within organizations, because you do need a critical mass of people who have experience in this industry to then feel like they have the capacity to lead through some of the challenges. But then if we look at the entry level positions, we're looking at all of the programs through the lens of how are the competencies comparable in the different adjacent industries that are robust in the region. And how can we then attract people who might be in a different adjacent industry, but they need to take one certification to get to a place where they would be ready to build on their manufacturing technician work and move into pharma. And so that's how we're thinking about it right now. But we have grown so fast. And I think I'm just delighted to hear the news of 100 more employees into Civica. But that also means that we have a lot of work to do to continue injecting capabilities into our workforce and talent systems, so that we're thinking broadly and beyond our backyard. We have to, in order to be able to resource the needs of the industry right now.
Yeah. You mentioned technology, AI. Eric, Phlow is a tech-enabled, CDMO, advanced manufacturing CDMO. How are you leveraging some of those tools to scale your operations, improve quality, really drive innovation?
Yeah, so I think everyone can appreciate, if you're going to sign up and raise your hand and say, we're going to actively try to bring the ingredients that no one else wanted to make back to U.S. soil, and we're going to compete against countries that have extremely low labor costs. As Ned said, if the vial only cost a couple of dollars of critical essential medicines, you can only imagine the cost of the ingredient inside of it and the margins there. So for us, it was all about, what are we going to do to use Joy's term and leapfrog the competition and leapfrog foreign countries with capabilities and innovation. And that's being catalyzed and leveraged through our government partnership that is turning on programs through not just foundational manufacturing capabilities, but state-of-the-art technologies. We're about to complete our first multi-step continuous manufacturing process. We just completed our first active ingredient program that leveraged brand new chemistry that is cost competitive to Asia. And we are now working on, as Robbie mentioned, leveraging artificial intelligence in very specific areas. For example, artificial intelligence in route scouting to drive intelligence on how we can make these medicines faster with a robust chemical library of known reactions that we can query. Process optimization in the manufacturing plant, integrating all the data on the manufacturing floor into our ERP systems and across the entire network, so that we can make informed decisions on how to drive our manufacturing facilities operations more efficiently. All of this will reduce timeline and reduce cost if used in a very methodical and diligent manner, and through partnerships and collaborations, as I mentioned before. We can't do this alone. It takes a ton of effort, and we're going to borrow and learn from each other along these massive other institutions that have just signed this accord and working on artificial intelligence to enhance our industry. This is about national public health security and national security. And so it's an effort worth focusing innovation on.
Greg, I need more than an hour for these types of topics with my friends. We're running close here on time. Maybe, I don't know if there's any questions from the group.
There is a question from someone in the group, wants to know if there's anything we can do as small businesses within the 757 to support these efforts.
Maybe that's a great wrap. A way, if we could, kind of going back to that question earlier to Joy about what more could we be doing to integrate both the work that we're doing in Richmond-Petersburg with what's happening down in Hampton Roads, and then maybe a little bit more specifically, a little twist on small business. Well, we'll start in the order in which we all talked. Joy, do you mind taking first step?
Sure. I mean, I think one of the things that is really important about this work is spreading the good news of the work that's happening. I think awareness is a huge part of what's happening in this region, and not just in the region, but awareness very broadly of the work that's happening is one of the small things. I mean, every time I present, I ask people to tell 3 people about the work that's happening here, because I really do believe that that's a huge ripple that can go. But I think ultimately, as we start to consider innovation roadmaps for each of these pillars of work, we talk about digital factory, we talk about AI in pharma, we talk about roadmaps for workforce and talent system. I think it's identifying where you as an individual or as an organization align to that particular area and how you can support our taking a broader perspective on what's possible. And so I would just suggest reaching out to me if you're interested in following up on some of those threads, because I do think that there's many other ways to look at this elephant, and we really do need all of the minds collectively focused.
Excellent. And please reach out to Joy. Ned?
Yeah, I don't have too much more. I mean, I'll go back and, I mean, as you can tell, we're ramping up 80 people the first half of the year, 100 people the second half. So I'm all about the folks and the training and supporting those people, and help us attract people to the area. I mean, this area is a great place. I've enjoyed my time in the area, and I think help us support the people that we're bringing in. We are bringing in quite a few folks that have the background. We're hiring a lot of folks in the area too, by the way, but we're bringing in some too, as we have to for that experience level. So help us with not only, the education, but also attracting people to the area and supporting them.
Excellent. Eric, round us out.
Yeah, no, listen, I think we can't live on islands. Innovations like the I-64 Innovation Corridor, they aim to bridge these regions together and foster collaborations and workforce development, to Ned's point, research, supply chain, data science, and data and analytics. So if you're listening to this webinar and you're in that 757 region and you're thinking to yourself, the Alliance and these companies need to know I exist and need to know what we can do to help them. I think it's about raising awareness first, reaching out to Joy and saying, hey, here's what our company does. Here's how we can support you all. Here's what we'd love to be able to offer. And then it's a reciprocating. How can we serve you all as well? And so that's how real, authentic community and vulnerable trust is built, one conversation at a time. And this is hopefully just the start of one of those movements.
Joy, Ned, Eric, thank you so much for agreeing to participate in this webinar. Greg, thank you for having us in RVA757.
Great. Thank you so much, Robbie, for your expertise and everyone's expertise in this particular subject. Let me just briefly tell everyone what's coming up next. Again, if you want to know anything more about RVA757 Connects, go to our website. You can see where our 4 major focus initiatives are. A reminder that this webinar will be available later this afternoon on our website. So please go to it if you'd like to refresh what was said, or let other people know as well. And all of our webinars, in fact, the one that Eric and Robbie did back in February of 2022 is on our website. You can go back and listen to it and see what was going on back then. Our next virtual innovation spotlight webinar will be in September. We're going to take July and August off. We'll come back in September, And we've got some interesting ones, but we're not ready yet to announce what they will be, but we've got them working on right now. Thanks again to all of our speakers. Robbie, thank you for moderating this event. Joy, Eric, and Ned, thank you so much for participating in today's webinar. And also thanks to our webinar sponsor, Virginia Natural Gas. We appreciate their support as well. And thank you to everyone else who participated today and for joining us on our virtual Innovation Spotlight webinar series. We'll hopefully see you on Wednesday, September 3rd. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you all.